Hey, welcome back to the channel. So I'm a sucker, and I went ahead and ordered the Panasonic S1ll because I just couldn't resist getting a new camera, I guess. And to be honest with you, really Sony and Panasonic is all that really interests me anymore. I'm not interested in anything else. So I just decided, I want to pick this camera up, test it out for a few days and see what I think. So I wanted to kind of run you through the first 20 to 30 minutes of me using the Panasonic S1ll. I'm just on my Osmo Pocket here. We'll switch over to this camera in a minute, but there's a few things I want to show you actually on the camera while I have it out here. I have some notes on my computer and I'll kind of go from there. So we can start off with the body. Man, this is a really robust camera, and I'm digging the bigger grip. Okay, now I'm going to compare this a lot to my Sony cameras because that's what I've used forever. The A1 II. That's what I use primarily with a camera like this. The grip is nice and chunky. You know what I mean? You can get a good purchase on this grip. It's just a little bit big for my hands, and I have about medium-sized hands, to be honest with you. So it's just a little bit too big for my hands, but it feels pretty decent. One of the things that I have issues with, though, is I shoot mostly in aperture priority. That's pretty much what I shoot with the majority of the time. And there is an exposure compensation button right here on the top. But to do that, you kind of have this weird finger motion. It's a little hard for me to reach there. And then from there, you have to adjust the dial. So to get into exposure compensation, when you're in aperture priority, you have to reach over, hit this button, then adjust the dial. So that's like a two-step operation. Sony has a dial right on top where you can adjust that. Now I'm sure that I can go into the settings and change any of these when I'm in aperture priority to exposure compensation. I'm sure I can adjust this dial or this dial to do that. I understand that. But up until this point, I haven't done that because the menu system. We can talk about the menu system just briefly. The menu system in this new Panasonic camera is just, it is mind-blowingly difficult to get grasp on. I have the S9 here, and I use it quite a bit, and still I can't wrap my head around what's going on with this camera's menu system. Like, whatever Panasonic's engineers and developers and computer people are designing, I just can't wrap my head around what they're doing. I think that is the main problem. It's like, I use an Apple computer 99.99% of the time. I'm used to the user interface. I'm used to what is going on with the computer. I get on a Windows computer, I'm totally lost. And that's how I feel using this camera. Like, I'm just totally lost while using the menu system. And I just can't wrap my head around what I need to do, or what they're trying to do, or how they're wanting me to use the camera. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around it. So that's enough on the menu system. We go over here to the side. If you can see here, you have a nice, if you can see here on the side here, you have a nice textured grip. And then you run into the card slot thing, and it's just a hard, smooth plastic for the card slot. To me, it feels kind of cheap. My Sony cameras, the card slots is textured. The smooth plastic, the whole card slot chamber just feels kind of cheap. To me, I'll just say that. The doors on the side over here for your HDMI and all this stuff, they're kind of these flappy doors. They're kind of flappy. Will they protect from any kind of water or anything like that? Over the long haul, to me, if you're using these a lot, it seems like to me that they might, grow loose and have a hard time staying shut. That's what it seems like to me. But I'm much more comfortable with an actual door, like these flappy things. Just, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the flappy doors. The screen, of course, is the tilt, swivel, every which way but loose screen. Love this screen, and it's much better than Sony screens in general. And once you kind of use a camera with this type of screen, it's hard to go back and use anything else, to be honest with you. Over here on the side, you have this lock button. That's really cool. If you're using a camera, you just want to keep the settings exactly how they are. You don't want to have to, be worried about bumping a button or anything and changing any of your settings. You just hit the lock button, locks the whole camera down. Up here on top of these dials here, now Panasonic has this right. Sony has this totally wrong, okay? You push the dial and it locks. You can't turn it. But you push it and it unlocks it, and then you can turn it. So you can leave it on, unlocked if you want. And then if you want to lock it, you can push the button. So Sony's, it stays locked all the time, and to unlock it, you have to push the button and turn the knob, which is, that's kind of a pain in the butt to do, really, especially if you have a cage on the camera. That's why I ultimately took the cage off of my A1 II, because it was getting to be like a ridiculous maneuver to get in there and hold the button and twist the knob. And they had that also over here on this dial as well. So these locking dials, locking buttons, much better than a Sony camera, and more thought out, 100% for sure. I like having this, if you can see there's a single autofocus, continuous autofocus, and manual autofocus switch. I love having that there. So if you want to switch real fast, you can do that. And this little button right here controls all your function settings. That's kind of weird, but it is what it is. The autofocus button, it's a little small. It's a little small and kind of hard to find when you're got your eye up to the viewfinder. So that's just a little overall rundown of the body. So we'll get to some examples here in just a minute about exactly what I did when I took the camera out of the box, set it up for just a minute or so, then started taking some test photos, But the first thing I want to point out in this camera, which is awesome, is, and I like, is the shutter sound. If you can listen to this, it has a really, really nice shutter sound. It's a little loud. It's much louder than A1. A1 II is just like chick, chick, chick. And that's the actual shutter, not in electronic shutter mode. You can just barely hear it even when you have it up to your face. So this is louder than that. It's more pronounced than that. I do like it. However, some of my first examples here, I got the camera, I put it in 70 frames per second in electronic shutter mode, and just like, I have LED lights up here. I just pointed it down, and it's like, taking shots, letting it run a little bit, see what happens. The first thing I noticed immediately when on reviewing those shots is there's banding. I think, from what I can tell, there's banding in the shots. Which, hey, you say, well, I'm not ever going to use 70 frames per second that much, and definitely not going to be using it in a situation where there's LED lights. That's probably true, okay? But you might get in a situation where you don't want to hear this while you're, like at an event or something. You might want to use silent shutter. There's a possibility if you're using electronic shutter to get a silent mode that you could get banding. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know. This is from the very first shots that I've taken. Okay, I took a few shots, kind of messed around with the camera a little bit. Had a water bottle sitting on my desk over here. I had it just in continuous autofocus in just a point or, an area. Would not focus on the water bottle. Would not focus on it. So I don't know what's up with that, but it wouldn't focus on it. And I tried a couple of different times to take the shot, just to focus on the water bottle. Really weird that it wouldn't focus on it, but trust me, it would not focus on this blue water bottle for whatever reason. And it was just a continuous focus spot. Should have been no problem to focus on it, wouldn't do it. So take that for what you will. We'll go into the first video that I ever took with this camera. I took it out of the box, whatever settings it was in. I think I changed it to, open gate, 24 frames per second. Took it out of the box, shot this video. The first thing that I noticed is the pulsing with the autofocus. Now, I didn't set the autofocus up any particular way. I just used it straight out of the box. First thing I noticed is all the pulsing in this video. And then I tried the tracking on this mouse here. the tracking, the box is just going all over the place. You can see a little bit of a pulsing in the video. The tracking on this is just, it's not very good. I use tracking all the time on my Sony cameras. Like when I have it set up, I have the autofocus button set up for tracking on in video and autofocus and tracking or whatever in photo. So when I hit this, I'm engaging tracking of some sort. And I use it all the time instead of using the joystick. Just, to me, it just seems faster. Let's just say I have, for instance, I have it in wide area face and auto eye detect. You know, that's how I normally use the camera. But all of a sudden I want to track something. Okay? Like I just want to track something. I had to hit this button in the center here, which pulls up a screen. Then I had to hit the auto AF detection on off. I had to hit that button, and then I had to choose the tracking function that I want. So hit that. Then I had to hit set, and then I'm able to touch something on the screen, and it'll track it. That's a lot of steps. That's a lot of steps just to track something. Sony, you can just program it to one button. You just start tracking them right away. But if you don't use tracking a lot, it's not going to make that much of a difference. I happen to use it a lot. Just to me, it's just an easier way to use your camera. But take that for what it will. But the tracking on it, if you just want to put it on a simple object like this mouse, it was moving all around. I couldn't keep it in frame. Anyway, we'll move on. Decided just to take a video of this coffee cup just to see what it would do if there's any pulsing at all. Just zoomed in on this coffee, or put it on this coffee cup and let it run. Everything looked fine. Everything looked fine there. It did a good job. So yay for that, but I would expect any camera to be able to do that. Okay. We move over to face and eye detect. To do a little face and eye detect thing, I just have my camera sitting right here, pointed on me. The face and eye auto focus in this thing is on Sony's level. It does a great job if you just want face and eye auto detect. Even with glasses on, it did a wonderful job when the lighting is normal. Now, when you get over a little bit farther into the video, I decided to turn down the lights just a little bit to see how it would react in. You can see all this hunting. You can see all this pulsing back and forth when the lights are low. Now, does that make any difference? I don't know, but that's what it did when I turned down the lights a little bit. So take that for what you will. But anyway, that's just the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of me using the S1ll. I know that I can dive into the menus and correct probably 3/4 of the problems I've had with this camera so far, or there's things that I don't like. I can customize it however I want. But the question is, do I want to? That's the question. Do I want to? I get in this camera, I start looking at the menu system, and I'm just like, is it really worth my time for OpenGate to try to figure out every little setting of this camera to make it work for me? I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I appreciate you watching. Have a good day.